Welcome, everyone, to Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic. We had a break for a few weeks while I was recovering from my shoulder surgery, which, as you can see, I still have a sling, but recovery is going well. My rotator cuff is doing its thing, getting healed. And then last week we had a special meeting on Passover. And today we are jumping back in on the soul trait of enthusiasm, which also can be translated as alacrity. And we just came across the Hebrew root of this word, which is Zion Resh, Zion Zerez, which is kind of to hurry and do something. So I was pretty excited about that. I'm like, hey, I know this word. But we'll get started as we usually do with a quick meditation to create a sacred space for us to be together. So please relax and close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. As you go at your own pace of inhaling through the nose and holding, and exhaling through the mouth and holding. If thoughts come into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car move past on the highway. Now is not the time for solving problems or for planning. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, think to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema. Listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema. Listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, friends, we'll get started with our discussion with this quote from the book of Proverbs: a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. So I'm going to copy this and I will put it in the chat. And so I'm wondering, do you find this helpful? What do you take from this? Is this sort of good advice? Is it too strong? What do you think? Carrie, I saw you unmute.
It sounds like someone saying, don't let your guard down. And I just did a meditation before this started, and that was a little sleep, a little relaxation. So I was, as I read it, I thought, well, wait a minute, this is the opposite of what I'm trying to do. So I guess it depends on where you're coming from, how you interpret it.
Yeah, clearly that's a great connection to meditation. It doesn't seem like this person was a meditator.
No.
It seemed like this person was a little go-go.
Type A.
Yeah. Wendy.
Well, I think I would add a couple words. I don't usually say that, but I just think that in the wrong time, at the wrong time, doing that at the wrong time, not being aware of what you're doing, just not giving it much thought, because I think rest is important, it could be very important. So I think at the wrong time, though, it can be devastating.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, there's a difference between rest and other times when, it's not the time for rest. Yeah, great. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Carol.
I'm wondering if this is more metaphoric, that it's like a metaphor for what's the word I'm looking for? Not passivity, but kind of like where you just kind of let things go and don't stop paying attention. That if you stop paying attention, something will sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Carol. I love that, because that's right. You just give up on your responsibility. I love that. More metaphoric. I think that's true.
Yeah, a little mindful awareness, sort of paying attention to what's going on around you. And when you don't, yeah, who knows what's going on. I think at one point I stopped opening my credit card bills for a couple months because I thought I hadn't been using it. And it turns out I hadn't paid one of that. And I had all this money that piled up, all these penalties that were owed, and so, a little too much sleep and slumber in that circumstance. I just was kind of letting things ride. Hi, Joanne, looks like you're in your car. So hello, welcome. Anyone else want to chime in? Yeah, Bonnie.
So I read it because it came with the email, and I was uncomfortable with it, quite frankly. And I'm still uncomfortable with it. I don't see it metaphorically, although I understand what you were saying, Carol. My problem for me is that I'm always on top of things, and it's exhausting. And I would like to be able to just step back a little bit and take a little sleep, or a little fold my hands and just relax a bit. And this I didn't like at all, because the way I read it was probably too literal, but the way I read it was, you can't. So,
I'm not sure it was too literal. I mean, this is a theme which is in the Jewish literature a lot. Like,
I know.
sleep, keep doing stuff. And I think I agree with you that message is off track. And it's one thing if someone has an issue with procrastination, but there's a little bit in the literature which is a little too much towards too much enthusiasm, I think.
Too much doing.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but I'm not comfortable. And for me, I won't speak for anybody else. I'm not comfortable until it's done, and it's done correctly. And so that's what I'm looking to be able to do. And to tell me that poverty is going to jump up on me, and scarcity, like an armed man, says to me, oh, you can't let go. You can't relax. So, but I do understand what Carol was saying. I was uncomfortable with this the first time I read it, and I'm still.
The word I was looking for was complacency.
Yeah.
I can understand that, Carol. And I think that, but I don't read it that way.
Sure.
Yeah. Carrie.
I just had another way of looking at it. I live with somebody who's in the 12-step program, and I can't relax with a lot of the stuff that we have to deal with. So on the one hand, I meditate so that I can relax, so that I can deal with what we have to deal with. But I can't let my guard down ever. And it's it is exhausting.
It's
Mm.
exhausting.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Thank you. Listen with an open heart. It is, it's an important, our conversation is an important example of how we each have an opportunity to own these texts in our own way. And
Right.
depending on who we are and where we are in life, we may agree or disagree with a particular text, or it may apply or not apply in certain ways. And like for Bonnie, it's like, this is, pouring gas on the fire for some of my anxieties about getting things done. So, and for other people like Carrie, it's like, oh my God, that's totally it. There's this really important sort of circumstance in my life that really needs constant attention, every day. So thank you all for sharing, and drive safely there, Joanne. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit more. So I'm going to skip the assumptions for today. So we are talking about enthusiasm. It's in Hebrew zerazut, which can be alacrity, diligence, zeal. It can cover beginning tasks and also completing tasks. And I've struggled with procrastination. And certainly, like when I first read, I'm not as bad a procrastinator as I used to be. When I first read that, I got a whole shame spiral. It's like, oh my God, I procrastinate so much. It's terrible. They're going to come and take my house away. But but that's all kind of within this. Let's look at this third bullet. And I have a volunteer to unmute and read the third bullet, please.
The trait of zeal is an ornament to the other traits and perfects all of them. And I can't pronounce his name.
That's Orchat Tzadikim. That means the ways of the righteous. That book it's a Middle Ages Mussar book. It's probably written by a woman because it is written in Yiddish instead of in Hebrew. And it has an anonymous author, and they use cooking analogies. And
Definitely written by a woman.
Yeah, so I always am careful to make sure we have at least one source from a woman in each presentation, and this is our one for today. So what was she saying here about the trait of enthusiasm as it relates to the other traits?
Can you put that back up?
I just put it in the chat.
You put it in the chat?
Yeah, the trait of
Okay,
zeal is an ornament.
I see it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, Karen.
I would say that the ornamental property is that Sarah's enhances or deepens the effect of a positive outcome as it relates to other traits.
Yeah, great. Can you think of an example to explain that? If not, that's okay.
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, I would say, like, if we're practicing the trait of order and like, okay, I'm going to organize my sock drawer. I can kind of do that kicking and screaming and sort of hating every second of it. Or I can approach it with zerazut and be like, okay, we're going to get this done. I'm going to just approach this. I'm going to just get right on it. I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to get it done. And I'm going to do it with zeal and alacrity. And so in that sense, it's kind of enhancing or ornamenting, the trait of order. And I think that's an important reminder of how much all of these traits interact with one another. We call them soul traits, but this, there's no actual subdivisions of the soul for each of these traits. The soul is one thing, but we can focus on one particular aspect of it to kind of help us with our growth and with our healing. But there's lots of ways that these interact because they are, they do rise out of a unity. Yeah, Carrie and then Carol.
As I was reading that, I was thinking that enthusiasm gives us energy to tackle almost anything. It's not just when you get fired up, when you get excited about something, you feel energetic instead of sleepy or lazy. So it's more than just a mind thing, it's a physical thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And now Carol.
I'm doing a little language picking here, because the word ornament sounds slightly not serious, slightly trivial. So I think I would use the word enhancement, which means, it doesn't make it just prettier, it makes it better. It focuses it somehow. I can't think of an example exactly. Yours was fine, but it's to approach whatever it is you have to do with a feeling, a sense of goodness, I guess. That what I have to do, it's not going to be super pleasant, but it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that sort of reminds me, I'm doing, physical therapy exercises every day. And I've tried to do them with at least equanimity and with order. I have them scheduled. I do them every day. But when I can do them and, if I can in the next couple of weeks try to bring a little enthusiasm to them, it's like, hey, here we go. Each time I'm, pulling down this thing and stretching my arm's getting a little better. Wow, isn't that cool? Helping the body heal itself. So that's thank you, Carol. That's what it sparked for your comment sparked for me.
So I also, besides being a Jewish educator, I work with people on organizing their home and their bills and their financial stuff. I'm not a financial analyst at all. I'm just the physical thing of getting in so that there's order to them. And there are two things that I have learned when I've been doing this, which is one, start small and start in something that's doable and can be accomplished and you can see it's accomplished. And the second piece of it is reward. In some way, reward yourself. And that's, I'm not sure about the word ornament at all. And maybe because we are smack in the middle of seeing all of those ornaments. And sometimes they're a bit overwhelming. But I do think that going into doing something, whether it's something you want to do or something you need to do, if you do it with that kind of, I'm going to be able to accomplish something and it's going to be better afterward. Whatever mindset, I think it makes the task easier. I am a Broadway show music person. And so I have 3 of these ALEXAs in my house, and I'm always having music. And that for me is a reward. I can't get to Manhattan right now, but I can get to listen to it while I'm doing something. So maybe that's the ornament.
Yeah, I like that. Sort of, if we come at it with a positive attitude, that sort of becomes its ornament in itself, especially when there's some reward that's tied to it.
And the reward just can be, it's done.
Yes. Yes. Carol.
I thought of an example. When I used to lease horses, I would of course have to clean the stables. And you'd think, ew, got to shovel all that stuff. I really enjoyed it. I really seriously enjoyed it, getting mucky, getting dirty, getting sweaty and smelly. And I was thinking, why did I approach that with such enthusiasm when I hate cleaning my own house? That's the worst thing to me. I don't want to clean my house. And I thought, well, the outcome is so glorious because it means here I have this beautiful horse that's happy and healthy, and I'm helping that animal's well-being. So maybe it's linked to that. I don't know. Maybe it's linked to that. This is going to have a seriously good outcome and make your life, somebody else's life better. Just a thought.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great way to think about this. And maybe, if I'm going to pull up our slides again, if we think about the spectrum of enthusiasm, where if we have too little, it can be procrastination and it could be called slothful or lazy. But if we have too much, we can get into this rash, frantic busyness, which is something that I struggled with a lot when I was younger and in a workaholic lifestyle. But if I'm thinking about, is this like making things better for me or making things better for other people? I might rationalize that it was like better for others, but it was very hard if I really thought about it to say this was helping me. To kind of work all the time and make myself crazy and not be able to just get enough sleep and that kind of stuff. So I think that's a great filter to kind of look at things and decide, is this making the world a better place?
Now that I'm parked, I wanted to make a comment.
Yes.
Because I realized that I had people over for Hanukkah one night, and it motivated me. Looking forward to having company and cooking for them motivated me to at least make my house look neat and clean. I could have done better, but and that's what I consider the ornament, the enthusiasm of knowing that I'm gonna have company, Haknasat or Kim, the enthusiasm makes me, put more effort into my cooking. I mean, and sort of a funny story, I made my son latkes the day before, and they were horrible.
Oh,
And
no.
so they were really bad.
Uh-oh.
I think she froze.
She froze. The internet hates to deliver bad news about latkes. It just rebelled. Okay, well, I'm sure Joanne will rejoin us shortly. Any other thoughts or comments? I wanted to know, I was going to break us out into groups early and do a joint project, but I want to know if Joanne's going to be here for that. So maybe we'll take a look at something else. So could someone read this this last bullet, please?
Sure, I will. One should always run to perform a mitzvah, even on Shabbat.
Great. Okay, so what is this? This is from the Talmud. I'm going to close this again. I will put this in the chat. Okay, so
I really like that piece from Talmud, and I like it because for me, it leads to one mitzvah leads to another.
Mm.
So I think you, in my mind, you do it happily, you do it now. And because you've now done one, you're going to do a second one.
Mhm.
Is it also that a mitzvah is not considered work?
Yeah.
In this particular saying?
I'm not an expert on, I think that's seems like a very reasonable interpretation. I don't know, like for the people who really get into like the nuts and bolts of these kinds of rulings, what they would say, but I think that's a great interpretation of what's going on.
And it says even on Shabbat, as if to say, you cannot use Shabbat as an excuse
Not to
to
do
not
it.
do this.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think someone who was traditionally observant probably wouldn't interpret this saying it's okay to drive to do a mitzvah. Although for some things, like to save a life, it definitely is okay.
Well, Nefesh is it has the top priority,
Yeah.
no matter what.
So as with all things Jewish, the answer is it depends.
Yes.
True that.
Karen.
I want to go back for just a minute to the previous discussion on enthusiasm. So my daughter and I were talking about that, and I wanted to share that our discussion led to the thought that enthusiasm makes it easier to be kinder, to be more gratuitous or generous or patient. That enthusiasm, I like that connection that we found, that it makes it maybe easier or more palatable to engage our soul shades, and however we choose to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great observation. It just becomes easier to do that when we bring enthusiasm. And I think even in cases like I remember, I think in my book when I was writing about sharing my journal writings from the first time or second time I was going through this trade. I mean, I was probably a little bit depressed, or it was winter, or I had a cold, but whatever it was, I was really having a hard time like doing my daily emptying of the litter box. And I was like, you know what? Just, run to do good, just do your mitzvah, just get it done. And it just helped me just sort of get going and get that finished. Yeah, Carrie.
I just thought of an example of what happens when you stop having enthusiasm. I'm taking care of my dad right now. He's going to be 102 in February.
Oh my goodness. Wow,
and
awesome.
he when he turned 100, he had a goal. He just wanted to turn 100. That was his goal. And then he said, I don't care what happens anymore. My dad was very, very curious, loved to learn all his life. That didn't stop until he became 100. And then he just, in the last 2 years, dementia's kicked in. He's not physically active anymore. So I could see what happens when you just don't want to be enthused about anything. Part of it is age, but I think that he would, if he hadn't given up, a lot of things would be different right now. But he's still funny,
Thank you for sharing that, Carrie. We listen with an open heart. Okay, well, one thing I noticed last week is that my energy kind of kicked out. So I thought what we would do this week is I'll break us into our breakout groups a little bit early and maybe for a little bit longer, and that will give me a little bit of a rest. And you can do a little project together. So So here we have some quotes. And I'll go ahead and read these. An indolent person is wiser in their own eyes as 7 sages. Always find something to do for yourself or for a friend. Don't allow a moment of your life to be wasted. This is very much on the always doing stuff. The mitzvah is only prescribed to one who completes it. And then here's a quote from me, which was in the blog post that I shared. A nap is not lazy. So with your partner, I'd like you to kind of talk about this balance between the sort of need for recovery and also alacrity, for kind of getting things done. So you can do a check-in and, maybe see if you can come up with like a little mantra or intention that sort of fits you and covers these things. Does that make sense? I'll put the quotes in the chat, and then I will also put the prompt. Okay, so let's get some breakout rooms together. Okay, so the rooms are open. And I'll see you in a few minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So how was that? If you need more time, I could actually open the rooms again, or if you feel like you've done a good chunk, we can continue from here. So I'm curious, what would anyone like to share what you came up with?
I will, because I was saying that I've been a Jewish educator most of my career, and then 10 years ago I moved into development, which is the nice PC word fund for fundraising. And the term that just irked me that I would hear was give till it hurts.
Mm.
And I hated that term, hated it. And so we came up with give till it feels good.
Mm.
And I said, for me, that translates into the bane of my existence is my desk. And I have given up with, you must clean the whole desk. But before I go to bed, I pick a pile and I get rid of that pile. And so my little mantra is do it until it feels good.
Mm. Love that. Do it until it feels good. Thank you so much. Carol.
I found myself with 2 lovely people that are very organized and very doing it, do a lot, do too much. I'm a procrastinator. I'm terminally disorganized. And so I like do it until it feels good. But for me, it's take small bites.
Mm.
Take small bites and do it until it feels good. So kind of both and.
Yeah. Take small bites. Love it. Thank you. Yeah, Wendy.
Well, Karen and I capitalized on the last sentence, a nap is not lazy. And here's what our mantra is. Rest brings clarity of purpose and empowers progress.
Rest brings clarity of purpose and empowers progress. I love that. Thank you.
So Karen, if you wanted to talk about that, that'd be okay.
Yes, Karen?
I'm a big fan of the nap, and it allows for listening. It allows for perspective. The world doesn't stop moving, but we have an opportunity to not move as quickly, because I think when both are moving very quickly, a lot gets lost. And I recognize that for people actively in the work world who would sometimes close their door because they needed to shut out the chaos for a bit and didn't want to be embarrassed, they came up with the phrase the power nap to make it really acceptable to people everywhere, that this isn't a long-term being lazy, hiding from the world. It's a recharge and a listen and a refocus. So that's where all of this came from. Napping is not lazy. Actually, there's an art to it. I have a book about it.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I never thought of the term power nap as being a way to make it okay for like type A people to take a nap. That is very, that's fascinating, and I totally believe it.
And don't we start our Mussar sessions with rest? Because I got that idea when you say when you're working through the breathing, and then we say Shema, and that's what I hear Karen talking about when she talks about that nap.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the quotes we didn't look at, it says that if you're focusing on just one thought, then it becomes easy to do it with enthusiasm. And when we are, you know, our minds are all over the place, it's very hard to be focused, and it's hard to kind of generate that enthusiasm, because you're 2 steps in one direction, 1 step in another. And I can very much relate to that too. Other thoughts?
Well, I'm also approaching things with a feel-good perspective, like Bonnie was talking about. And maybe it's because I'm going to be 70 soon. I just have this is the last quarter of my life type of thing, even though my father's going to be 102 at that time. But so I'm taking the stress off of myself in terms of my professional life, and just doing my art or doing whatever, even cleaning the house, whatever it is, to feel good, to not try to impress anybody or win awards or, you know, any of that stuff. Just slow down and be very mindful of the present and enjoy it at the same time. And it's not always easy, but it's a very different approach than what I have done in the past several years. So.
And how is it working for you?
It's a big relief. It really is, that I took the pressure off, the stress off, and I feel good. I feel great about it, actually. I finally feel like creating things, whereas before I just was stuck because I had this pressure. And now it's wonderful. I'm really surprising myself how nice it is.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Carrie. Carol.
I made a connection just now between enthusiasm and joy. I think there's a big connection there. And I know that right now, my life has to be very much about joy, because dealing with the health issues I'm dealing with, and the fact I'm probably not going to live to be nearly as old as my parents, who both lived well into their 90s, I need to find the joy. And I need to understand that even when I feel really terrible, and sometimes I do. I wake up and I'm just, you know, I have all these pains and just hurt. That there are places and ways to find joy, even if it's just in looking out the window. And my enthusiasm, I think, is centered on seeing great beauty in small things. I've always kind of been that way. I'm what Robert Frost called a sunset raver, which means I'll look at a sunset and everything stops and I got to go pull a friend and say, look at this sunset. She looks at me like I'm crazy. And so I've always kind of been that way, but I really cherish that now in a way I never did before.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for listening with an open heart. Well, to close tonight, we will do a guided visualization. And I've done that with this group before. Some of you may have been here for that. So please, once again, relax and close your eyes. And it begins with a quote from Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto from Path of the Just. And he wrote, just as enthusiasm can result from an inner burning, so can it create one. That is, one who perceives a quickening of their outer movements conditions themselves to experience a flaming inner movement. Allow your attention to go to that light that's filtering through your eyes. It's that light of our divine spark. Oh, to travel in deep within your body, deep within the heart of your soul, and see the flame that's burning there. Now imagine yourself to be Moses, seeing the burning bush, a flame that burned and does not consume. Imagine that you've been given a glimpse of another layer of reality, where everything is covered by that flame that burns but does not consume. Now imagine one action that you would like to take this week with the deepest level of enthusiasm, with joy and with alacrity, powered by this divine flame that burns but does not consume. See yourself taking that action, covered in this flame, as is everything around you, glowing with a flame that burns and does not consume. Feel the joy that fills you as you take this action, knowing that you're aligned with something higher. And allow that image to fade. And we'll sit for just another moment. That joyous feeling that remains. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. Friends, thank you so much, excuse me, for being here this week.
Thank you.
Wishing you a week of joy and alacrity. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
The meditation was nice. Thank you. I really liked it.
Thank you all for your comments. They were really meaningful for me today. Not that they haven't been in the past, they were really meaningful today, and I really appreciated them all.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yours too.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. This is so meaningful. It's so important.
Have a great week.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Bye.
shalom.
Feel well, Greg.
Thank
Keep
you.
on that PT.
Yes.